right, well, here we are in the middle of this coronavirus hysteria. On the media side, I would say yes, it's definitely hysteria, wouldn't you?
I'd say it's downright fear-mongering and overreacting.
But, all right, we're going to run the numbers in a little bit, but it does look like, yes, the death rates are quite a bit higher on this than the average influenza would be. And this is more of a cold strain, by the way. But really, I do think the government's response is a bit incorrect. And we'll get to that at the end of this video. I'll just talk about it quickly as what I think would have been the proper response versus what's happening. But just to let you know, Candy wasn't going to mention anything about this in her video, any of her videos or blog, because do you want to say welcome to Eyes to Jesus on this?
Welcome.
Eyes to Jesus.
At blogspot.com.
At blogspot.com.
Edit.
You know, what if this video goes viral?
What if, well then maybe the coronavirus becomes digitized and just by watching our video on the screen, this information going into your eyes, you catch a coronavirus and the whole world dies.
And your computer catches a virus from it.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly this virus started with an animal, right? And now it's to humans, so why stop there?
Let's get iteration.
Get it into plants, let's get it into digital, let's roll this thing out completely.
That's right. It's out to the edge. But Candy wasn't going to mention anything about this because it was just a little bit, the whole thing kind of over the top for her. But you know what? We have seen some people really are scared. And
oh, I've seen a lot of people scared. The grocery store with the empty shelves, a whole bunch of people with their masks on. I would say about half the people that I saw just had this weird, dazed, zombie-like look. Quite interesting.
Yeah. And really, you know, frankly, my last calculation was in the 2% range if you just went with the worldwide. And this was without all the numbers all in yet. But the calculation was 2%, which is 20 times more than influenza virus. And, you know, that's could be scary for some people, but really, do you think that your health, and most importantly of all, your lung capacity is in the lowest 2% of people? Or do you think you kind of like have kind of a normal body? Now, if you've been smoking for 20 years, you might want to be a little bit worried. If you've got emphysema, look out. Your dad had emphysema before he died of lung cancer. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I don't think he could have got through this.
Oh yeah, I don't think my dad would have survived this if he were to have caught this. And you know, my mom, she's in her 70s, not in the greatest of health, and her roommate is a chain smoker, so she does have constant access to secondhand smoke. The only thing she has going for her is she's practically agoraphobic. She barely ever leaves the house.
He does, so he might bring it.
Yeah, so there's always the risk of that. But, you know, I personally think that the world is overreacting to this virus, and specifically in our country where the 98% seems to have to kowtow to the 2% that may die from this. I really think we are all being treated as if we're being our brother's keeper. And I really think people should be responsible for their own health. The family of the elderly or the immune suppressed, they should be responsible to helping out their family. Mm-hmm. But why should I be responsible for my neighbor? Why should my neighbor be responsible for me? Why can't everybody be responsible for their own health?
Well, it's worse than that, actually. So let's go ahead and talk about the government response right now then. Let's just say it really was, you know, bad, you know, like in the movie The Stand or something. The last thing you need to do is wreck the economy. Mm-hmm. We need people growing food. We need people delivering food. And unless you're in the worst 2% of respiratory health people in the country, you're going to get through it.
Yeah.
Frankly, I work with a bunch of Italians. They all went home for Christmas. They trickled back in January 6th, 14th, a little bit later. By the end of January, I had a very strange chest cold that took me like 3 weeks. of coughing phlegm, maybe even 3.5 weeks of coughing phlegm. I wondered if it was ever going to go away.
And he had reduced lung capacity for a while from it as well.
Yeah, I had the symptoms. Let's take a quick look at the symptoms here. Just a second. Here we have the symptoms of coronavirus disease 2019. Notice it says 2019. Okay, that's because from what I read on the internet, the first declaration of this thing's existence was December 31st, just before 2020. But you know what? By the time the CDC finds out about it, do you think that was the very first instance of it? No, it's been around before that. So
it had to be going for quite a while to catch their attention.
Yeah, that's probably pretty accurate. That's very accurate. This thing's been out since 2019.
Thus COVID-19.
Yes. So here's the symptoms as per the CDC. Mild to severity respiratory illness. Okay, we have symptoms can include fever. Yes, when I thought I had it mid to late January and it lasted about 3 weeks, I had a fever. By the way, I didn't have to miss 1 day of work. So I've had worse. 2017, I may have had something a lot closer to the first SARS coronavirus. Remember SARS 2004? Yeah, that was the coronavirus.
Yeah, this is SARS-2.
SARS-2. So they had fever, cough, had both of those, and shortness of breath. Okay, yes. At my job right now, I walk between, so I probably have pretty good respiratory health because at my job I walk probably a minimum of 2 miles a day and up to like 15 to 20 because I am all over this great big plant. There's no bicycles or golf carts, it's all walking. And just from my car to the main office I work in is half a mile.
Or such as the other day when they needed him fast, it was jogging.
Yes, I had to jog the other day. And so I'm 4 stories up, by the time I get to the main, the room where the computers are that I work with. And I was going up in the middle of this virus when I really had it, going. And I started going up the stairs and I was having a hard time getting enough breath and I was getting dizzy and stuff because of it. And I'm like, wow, I might actually have to take a day off. Because I was just kind of ignoring it. This is before this whole thing broke out and they were making a big deal out of it. As far as I was concerned, I had a cold. And that's what it is. This coronavirus is basically a version of the cold.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I was coughing up stuff out of my lungs, and it was fairly consistent, and it got kind of worse and worse.
Well,
I was
by the
looking for
way,
that.
too, it's important that even if you're not sick, that you are actually utilizing your full lung capacity when you breathe. So many people, they rarely ever fill their full lungs
They
full of
breathe
air.
shallow all the time, yes.
Yeah, and shallow breathers are going to be more at risk for infections of the respiratory, like pneumonia and bronchitis. So it's important. You need to use your full lung capacity.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if I was a smoker, I think right now, before I caught this thing, like a 20-year smoker or something, I might consider going ahead and really backing off, and I wouldn't want to cause a crisis where I was having to make my lungs clean out all at once, but I think I'd start backing off now heavy, like I go to a quarter of what I was doing and then back it down easy. And
yeah, if there's one thing that's coming from this whole COVID-19 scare is, I think it's a wake-up call to smokers and vapors. Stop putting that junk in your lungs.
Yeah, you want to keep your breathing capacity up, and you don't want particulates in there that could make things worse. All right, so let's go look at something else here for a minute. Why is it called coronavirus? I was interested to find this out. It turns out that the coronavirus, it's called that because these little spikes sticking out from the main sphere that is the virus itself, these spikes sticking out give it look like it's got a corona surrounding it. So that's why they call it the coronavirus. I got these off the CDC website. They are royalty free. And by the way, anybody can copy this video, put it on your YouTube channel, even if it's monetized. Everything here should be royalty free. And I relinquish all copyrights to this video. Copy, use it, claim it as your own, I don't care. So, so you could show that they're kind of showing the little proteins on this. It's kind of an interesting thing. I was looking at the statistics of the United States, and they say 178 recoveries. Wow. How many people had the coronavirus, are over it now, and there's no record of it.
Yeah,
178 people. I mean,
well,
I'm
I
one.
think it's important that we remember also that the amount of confirmed cases and the amount of recoveries is just based on those who have actually tested after a certain date. There's going to be all sorts of people out there who have had or have it right now and are asymptomatic or semi-asymptomatic, or it's so mild with them they just think they have allergies, so they don't see any reason to get tested.
That's
So,
true.
you know, it makes me think that the survival rate is probably actually better than the bleak numbers that we are being given.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let's take a quick look here at the and do some calculation. Okay, here we have the major players in this on the world stage so far: China, Italy, Spain, United States, and we have some numbers. Now, the overall confirmed numbers, recovered, and deaths. So what you do is you take your small number here, that's 16,490, 16,490, and you divide that by the total worldwide, because that was the total worldwide deaths. And now we're going to find out the percentage of people that die from this based on the numbers that have come in so far. But as I have mentioned, they don't even have me in their statistics. There's a whole bunch of people who didn't die that won't be in the statistics. Basically, everyone who's died from it probably got tested, so they probably have most of the deaths because those people all got tested. But the people who just got it and then got over it, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to just not even ever have been tested and confirmed cases. So this 378,392 number is actually bigger, and therefore the percentage of deaths is actually going to be smaller than what we see here. So let's see what we got anyway. All right, well there you go. Okay, so let's times this number by 100, which takes us into an actual percentage, because that was the decimal form right there. And you have 4.35%. So I can see how Trump was worried about it. You know, as the person who's in charge of the Center for Disease Control and the resources of the federal government, I can see how he'd be concerned about the people in the old folks' homes, which are the high-risk people. So that's your high-risk people in the old folks' homes, and people who've really messed their lungs up by smoking for years and years and years. Now, on one hand, you could say that at least the smokers have been asking for it. They haven't been too worried about death because they've been warned that it's a dangerous thing they're doing, and they keep doing it. So, but the people in the old folks' home, well, you know, they got old and there's nothing they can do about it. So that's not necessarily their fault. But just because you're old doesn't mean you have to have a bad immune system. Eating properly and doing things like taking vitamin C and some cod liver oil so that you keep your omega-3s up and your nervous system operating properly so that your immune response is good. Things like that can really help if you're worried. So 4.35%, well that's pretty darn high. So that is, if 0.1% is the influenza deaths each year, this is 43.5 times worse than that. And so there's a lot more people. And so, yeah, Trump's worried about it. But really, okay, so let's take a look at the United States right now and see where we're at. All right, so we have the 546. And we divide it by the confirmed cases, 4,3,555, and we get, and then let's go ahead and times that by 100, get the percentage. 1.25% is what we have. Now, so the worldwide cases, some of them are pretty bad because, you know, in some of these places in China, it's possible that their nutrition's not good. Also, some of these other countries like Italy, I think smoking may not be as taboo as it is here, so more people there.
Yeah, I'd like to know the numbers of, I'd like to know specific localities on some of these deaths. Are these areas where people are malnourished? Or, yeah, areas where smoking is still the thing, or vaping is a big thing. So I think that could also play into this too, because look at how much lower so far the percentage is in the U.S.
Yeah, we're pretty low here. Now, Trump acted quickly, and his goal was to keep it out of the nursing homes. And
Yeah.
one way of stopping the general public from being sick does help the people who aren't in nursing homes, where their kids, grandkids visit them a lot, and they would unsuspectingly just get it. But really, what's the proper response, I think, for a thing like this? Well, we need the economy to be strong, because that helps
Yes.
provide the money, food, and medicine that people are going to need. What really should have been going on, I think, is that the advisory should have gone out that says, okay, here are the high-risk groups: smokers, people with emphysema,
COPD.
COPD, heart disease, and all.
Chronic bronchitis, asthma.
Bronchitis, asthma. Those people needed to be quarantining themselves while the rest of us continue to go to work, keep the economy running.
And then P.S. there could have been all sorts of private charities started to help those people, the high-risk people who had to now quarantine themselves. But having, a good percentage of the country, and that's just the U.S., we actually have whole countries that are quarantined off. I think having all of us quarantined and severely social distancing is a problem. Do you know how many people are out of work right now that have no nest egg? They don't know how they're going to pay rent. And this is just going to do more damage to the economy. Even if we have bailouts coming in to help out people, where's that bailout money coming from? That's still coming from us.
Yeah, frankly, my idea was to have something that I would have called Camp Corona. Camp Corona is a place that you would go where you would go in there to Camp Corona, where they would serve, and this would be for people who could afford it, of course. And high-risk people would probably not be allowed, because Camp Corona would not want to take on that kind of liability. But at Camp Corona, what you would do is you would go in, you would have 3 square meals a day where you were, got your vegetables, your immune system is being well taken care of. We get cod liver oil, vitamin C, oregano, and elderberry, something. Boost that immune system, and you are given the coronavirus on purpose.
And by the way, you know how they're trying to work with Bayer aspirin to bring out that malaria drug because it has antiviral properties and might be able to help with corona. We have antivirals right now: oregano oil, elderberry syrup, and it has already been shown time and time again that by taking oregano oil and elderberry syrup within the first 48 hours of the first symptoms of a cold virus, significantly reduces the symptoms, makes the duration shorter.
Zinc was also a major thing that if you took it right at the beginning makes a big difference in the cold. I don't know if it works on the coronavirus, but zinc may also be another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at Camp Corona, you would be given the coronavirus. You would spend your 2 weeks from the time you were given it there, and when you came out, certificate of completion. You are free to walk around anywhere in America. You don't have to worry about it. You are immunized.
You are immunized. Now, the one thing that some people are going to bring out, though, is just because a person is immunized against something doesn't mean that they can't be a carrier of it should they be exposed again. So graduates of Camp Corona is going to still want to practice good hand washing practices and, not coughing on people.
Well, you know what? Now that you bring that up, Candy, what did my wife just say? Even if you're immune doesn't mean you can't be a carrier of it. So let's just think about that. People actually fall for the immunization thing. They think that the people who aren't immunized are endangering us all. No, not actually. As a matter of fact, the ones who didn't get immunized or didn't take the shots, they're your canary in the coal mine. When they get sick, it's in the area. The people who got immunized, and let's just go ahead and assume the immunization shot worked, why, they could be carrying it and you'll never know.
Well, let's look at the reality, too, of the immunization shot that they're trying to bring forth. Coronaviruses, like most, if not all, cold viruses, regularly mutate. So even if they do create an immunization for COVID-19, that doesn't mean that it's going to be effective by the time it's released to the public. It could have by then mutated into something else.
Exactly. There are DNA viruses and there are RNA viruses. Corona is an RNA virus. They mutate quickly. They also reproduce quickly which is one of the reasons it can kind of snowball on you and you need to keep your lungs clear.
Yeah, you know, basically, it really comes down to this. Even with this corona, COVID-19, if you take care of your immune system is going to take care of you and bring you through this.
Yeah. I think that we should have had a more measured response. I don't think there's any reason why I shouldn't be able to go down to the restaurant down the street and have dinner with a bunch of people around me. Most...
I really think we should still have the freedom to go to church. We should have the choice to put our own health at risk, and we shouldn't be our brother's keeper.
Right, and for those of you who have had sermons preached to you about how Abel was wrong, or Cain was wrong for saying, "What am I, my brother's keeper?" Use your head a little bit on that one. Cain wouldn't have said that unless he thought it was supposed to get him out of trouble, because he was very clear that he was not his brother's keeper. What is a keeper? A keeper is kind of like an owner. A zookeeper keeps the animals. They are under that person's control. He was basically pointing out that I'm not under Abel's control, so why should I know where he is? Of course, he did know where he was, and so he was trying to get out of it. But yeah, we're not our brother's keeper because we're all free men. We're not slaves. I own my own body. I can go kayaking, mountain climbing, or not take immunization shots. I can risk my own life because it's my own life. Yeah, it's gotten a little bit crazy. All of these shortages at the store, this is all unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly.
What we needed was a measured response, where I think the government has a place to inform and alert people.
I think public service announcements are great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I would like to say that I think Trump's response is understandable, basically given the fact that most people today don't know the proper role of the government. Ever since FDR and his ill-conceived Social Security system, people have gotten this idea that government's supposed to take care of you. Oops. So, the definition of the right is only the person in possession of the right can do something to make it go away. So let's just say that I decide I'm going to help at the soup kitchen down the street. I am using my liberty to help others, because that's what liberty means, that when you help others, it's voluntarily done. Every government handout program violates the 13th Amendment, which makes all involuntary servitude unconstitutional. When you take a piece of my check in taxation so that you can fund somebody else with it, you are forcing me to work for them.
And I mean, other taxes such as paying for the keeping up of our roads, that's totally fine.
Exactly.
Because
the
that's
government's
for our
job,
benefit.
exactly.
Yeah.
The government's job is to protect our right to pursue happiness, and the roads are very important so that even if there was a war to be fought, that we can move military equipment quickly in the country.
And also supporting our military.
And if there's a fire, for instance, the government's job is to protect my rights from being violated by somebody else. Oh, my next door neighbor fell asleep with a cigarette in their hand and their house is on fire. Uh-oh. So, fire truck comes over there and puts their house out before my house goes down. Police, military, those are all legitimate expenses of the government doing its duty to protect your unalienable rights. But it can't violate one person's rights to supposedly protect another. My right, if I fail to provide for my body, that's on me. It's not on you. If I do something like take my chances on the coronavirus and after smoking for 30 years and now I don't make it, well, that's on me. That's not on you. And you being forced to pay for my mistakes, that's a violation of your right to liberty. You can only give up your right voluntarily. And so in the case of somebody like going out and stealing from somebody else, the reason their right to liberty can be acted as though it does not exist is because they waived it when they stole from somebody else and engaged the government in order to protect everyone else's rights. That person has to lose their right to liberty. But they gave it up by their own actions. As the Italians would say, ciao!
Have a blessed day.
All right, Dos.
Who's editing this video? You? Because it's in your head?
No.
What?
From the CDC. Here it is. Okay.
Oh, cut it out.